I'm Francesca Maxime, and this is Currents. Life issues are a factor as the election closes in. We'll talk to one organization about what it's doing ahead of next Tuesday. Some big names weigh in on Pope Benedict's first 5 years in a brand new book. And it came to New York 75 years ago, and now its numbers are legion.
We have a special devotion to the Blessed Mother. Every day we say the Rosary.
Well, good evening and thank you for joining us. Matt McClure hands the night off. Is this election just about the economy? Well, with the unemployment rate in the U.S. at 9.2%, many people say so, but is that really the only issue? Pro-life candidates, many of them women, won party primaries and appear to have a good chance at taking the general election, which is just a week away. It has become such a big trend that many are calling this year the year of the pro-life woman. And joining me now is one woman who has had a big influence on all of this. Her name is Marjorie Dannenfelser. She's the president of the Susan B. Anthony List. The organization works to get pro-life candidates elected to Congress. Marjorie, thank you so much for joining us on Currents today.
Francesca, I'm thrilled to be with you. Thank you.
Well, Marjorie, first question for you. What is your take on this year of the pro-life woman? That's sort of how it's being billed.
Well, it's been a long time coming. There's a realignment going on in the hearts and minds of women all across the country, and the realignment is all about what the women's movement is and what authentic feminism really is. And the women that we are seeing rise to the top and the top levels of candidates running for political office is that the strong proclivity is that they be pro-life without question. But the realignment is occurring in my view, but my view aside, and all the polls that we're seeing, is that putting abortion at the center of the women's rights movement was an enormous mistake on many levels, most importantly on the human level, but secondarily certainly on the political level. And there is a great lack of confidence that the women's movement is actually looking out for the rights of women. So the women running are very strongly pro-life, and they are articulate, and they are outspoken, and we expect to see them as governors and senators and members of the U.S. Congress.
Well, talk to me a little bit more about those women, Marjorie. What races are you keeping a close eye on?
Well, on the Senate level, we've got 4 very strong pro-life women running for the Senate. Carly Fiorina running against Barbara Boxer in California, Sharon Angle running against the leader of the Senate, Harry Reid in Nevada, Christine O'Donnell running in Delaware, and then Kelly Ayotte running in New Hampshire, all with a very strong chance of winning. And then on the governorship level, we've got 4 candidates that almost certainly will, well, you can't say anything is certain in politics, but 4 women governors that all indications show are going to be elected to the governorships and are very strongly pro-life and who we're looking forward to working with after the election.
And what kind of an impact do you think that these women can have if they are indeed elected to office?
Well, it's critically important on both levels, on the federal level and on the state level. On the Senate level, who gets confirmed as justices to the Supreme Court will determine the life of Roe versus Wade, so to speak. And if we get a situation where the states can finally start to enact laws that reflect public opinion, governors will be key to this. And the fact that these leaders are women on the issue doesn't make them superior, but it does make them authorities on the issue. It's an issue that impacts women and their unborn children, and they are natural advocates for the unborn.
And you, Marjorie, personally have been campaigning against some Democrats who say they're pro-life but voted for the health care reform bill. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, this is critically important for the success of the pro-life movement overall. That is when a group of people, whatever party they're in, say that they are pro-life and then vote for the biggest expansion of abortion since Roe versus Wade, they must be held accountable. Again, no matter what party they are in. And there is a group of those. A couple of them have already fallen in primaries or have resigned. But we have a very large target list of those formerly pro-life Democrats that we have targeted for defeat, and we expect to see them go down on Election Day because of their vote on life.
Well, do you think then that life issues are split along party lines overall, or no?
They are not. I mean, this is an issue that transcends everything. I mean, the right to life is the right on which every other right is premised. And so there are very strong pro-life Democrats in the Democratic Party, but this group that voted for health care that funds abortion has proved their label wrong. And if we just stand down and say, well, that's okay, and step aside and accept whatever crumbs might come our way, we will have done women and unborn children a great disservice.
And Marjorie, just my last question to you, because we're running out of time. What are the requirements to be getting endorsed by the Susan B. Anthony list?
Well, our great emphasis is on pro-life women's leadership. That's why we call ourselves the Susan B. Anthony list. All those early suffragists were very strongly pro-life. They understood the connection of rights between human beings. So that is a requirement. We also we have a vast network of donors, and so we want to give the most viable candidates. We want to present them to our donors, and so they have to have a viable campaign. They have to be pro-life, and then the third criterion is a group of men who are opposing pro-life. Pro-abortion women in public office, because we think it's almost as important to defeat them as it is to advance pro-life women.
All right, well, Marjorie, Dan, and Falser, that is all we have time for on Currents, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Francesca.
Our pleasure. Well, stay tuned. There's much more Currents straight ahead. When we return, we'll have the day's headlines, including hopeful signs for a bishop who was the victim of a vicious attack. Welcome back to Currents. Coming up later, a Catholic lay group celebrates 75 years in New York. But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. Well, as we heard, life issues are a factor in next week's election. So is immigration, especially in border states. And it's on the mind of Pope Benedict ahead of next year's World Day of Migrants and Refugees, as we hear from Rome Reports.
Benedict XVI sent a message for the World Day of the Immigrant and Refugees in 2011, which will take place on January 16th. The Pope noted that states have the right to regulate migratory flows and defend their borders, but at the same time asked that governments welcome all people and ensure respect for human dignity. The Pope has called his message a single human family. In the message, he says that immigrants have a duty to integrate into the host country, respecting the laws and national identity.
We are all children of God. Every one of us has inalienable rights, and every one of us as a human being must be respected. This is the foundation of how we should be inspired, and this is how the Church should inspire nations.
The Pope devotes part of his message to the refugees and forced migrants. He cautioned that if authorities of the host country are concerned about security and social cohesion, then they should respect immigrants' rights, and only then will a stable and harmonious coexistence be achieved. According to the Pope, authorities should also help displaced persons to find a place where they can live in peace. They deserve this help because they often have to flee their own countries for political or religious reasons. In his message addressed to governments, citizens, and immigrants alike, he calls for everyone to help in achieving integration of immigrants in an increasingly globalized world.
And from Canada, the Bishop of Kamloops is said to be showing signs of healing and is resting comfortably following a vicious attack last Friday. Bishop David Monroe suffered severe head trauma after an attacker entered the rectory of Sacred Heart Cathedral. The Vicar General for the diocese says that Bishop Monroe was regaining some recognition and some speech. Turning now to this country, the Archbishop for Military Services is weighing in again on Don't Ask, Don't Tell. In an interview with Catholic News Agency, Archbishop Timothy Broglio says that while people do have a right to declare their sexual preference, they do not, at the same time, have a right to serve in the military. He added that the military reserves the right to refuse people for other types of speech and behavior. The Archbishop also says he is concerned that chaplains whose religions oppose homosexual behavior may lose the right to proclaim their teachings on the matter. From Baltimore, a first for America's first diocese. An Episcopal church has voted to convert to Catholicism. The vote from Mount Calvary Episcopal Church is only a first step, though. The church must next send a written request to the Archdiocese of Baltimore. In other news, the Archdiocese there is asking parishes to consider cutting back on the number of masses offered because of a shortage of priests. And just down the highway in Washington, the financially troubled Pope John Paul II Cultural Center will have a new owner, the Dominican Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Eucharist, the same nuns who were featured on Oprah earlier this year. In a statement, the Ann Arbor, Michigan-based sisters say they will use the center as a house of studies. According to the statement, the agreement to purchase the center is still in the inspection phase. Well, history will be made in communist Cuba next week when a new seminary opens its doors. A delegation of U.S. bishops will be arriving on November 3rd for the opening of the seminary 30 miles outside of Havana. It's the first religious institution built in Cuba in 50 years. From Switzerland, a Catholic church is raising a lot of eyebrows by handing out condoms as part of an AIDS awareness campaign. On Monday, the church began distributing the condoms, which bear the slogan, "Protect thy neighbor as thyself." A spokesman says they're not promoting promiscuity, but rather encouraging people to think about HIV and AIDS. A spokesman for a neighboring diocese called the condom distribution a mistake. And in Rome yesterday, the brother of the Pope, Monsignor Georg Ratzinger, was among 4 men honored for their accomplishments in the field of music. The International Foundation of Sacred Music and Art presented the awards, and it was all part of a music festival that took place in the 4 major basilicas in Rome. The president of the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra was also among those honored. Well, stay tuned. There's much more current straight ahead. Just ahead, all you ever wanted to know about Pope Benedict in a coffee table book. Welcome back. Well, the Pope is one of the most photographed and written about figures in the world. And now the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops has published a comprehensive look at his papacy so far. It is a collection of photographs and essays called Benedict XVI, Essays and Reflections on His Papacy. And to find out more about it and get a first look, our Natalia Ortiz spoke by phone recently with Sister Mary Ann Walsh, the book's editor.
Sister Mary Ann Walsh, editor of Benedict XVI, Essays and Reflections on His Papacy. Thank you so much for joining us, Sister.
And thank you.
Sister, why was this book an important one to make?
We felt that the first 5 years of the pontificate of Pope Benedict showed extraordinary accomplishments. His first 5 years, we've come out with numerous writings, and we have a pope who can write very clearly and precisely and communicates well. We have a pope who told us he wasn't going to be doing much traveling, but has made numerous trips, especially to the Middle East and then also to Africa. And we thought it should be captured right now. Okay. It's hard to recognize history when it's going on, but we looked hard and we said this really is a historic moment.
All right, yeah, I guess that leads me to my next question. I mean, it's been 5 years. Is that sufficient time? Some would say it's not a lot of time, especially, I guess, when it comes to being a pope, to be able to sit back and reflect on what has happened, what he has achieved. What would you say to that?
Well, 5 years in today's society is a long time. You know, a day in previous years, a century could seem like a short time, but now things are moving so quickly that we felt that 5 years was enough time to take a look. And we had enough examples of papal trips, papal statements, and responses to the Pope from all around the world that we felt we did have enough information to move from.
So why were King Abdullah II of Jordan a Muslim and the Israeli President Shimon Peres a Jewish person? Why were they asked to write forwards for this book? I thought that was very peculiar.
Well, I think it's that the concern for the Middle East and for peace among Christians, Jews, and Muslims is a vital part of this papacy. You know, Pope Benedict had wonderful visits with both King Abdullah and President Peres. That's why we invited each one to write a brief foreword. And they both graciously responded, and they recalled the deep spiritual themes that marked those meetings. You know, King Abdullah, I remember him saying, his words of wisdom have reached millions of people on every continent. He said, my hope that we can expand the dialogue to engage all our people in finding common ground. President Perez, he said we were just proud to reach out to the Pope's hand, to take it and to pray together for peace. He pointed out that the people of the Holy Land yearn for peace and pray that the cherished hope that the three Abrahamic faiths who love this land equally will be realized. The Pope is a world leader.
And what do you hope this book will achieve? I mean, where do you see this going? What do you think is going to come out of this?
Well, I laughingly refer to this as the Cliff Notes on the Pope. We limited our essayists to about 400 words, and you can't write a good 400-word essay unless you really know the subject matter. And the people we asked to write did that. And so, as I said, we have the Cliff Notes on the Pope. We also have a very attractive book. Picture is worth 1,000 words, the old saying, and we see pictures here, we presented pictures here, which tell a real story.
Thank you so much, Sister Marianne.
Okay.
And that is Natalia Ortiz with Sister Marianne Walsh of the USCCB. Stay with us. We'll be right back. When we return, foot soldiers for Mary on the streets of New York celebrate 75 years.
I know the Holy Spirit is here. It's all around us, and it's just going to come down and bless all of us.
Finally tonight, celebrating a movement that has a legion of followers. Literally, it is the Legion of Mary. The first New York chapter of the Legion started in the Bronx 75 years ago, inspired by a similar group that had taken root in Ireland. Now it's spread around the world and touched countless lives. Sunday, during the month of the Rosary, members of the Legion gathered at St. Patrick's Cathedral to mark this milestone anniversary. Santa Maria, Madre de Dios, ruega por nosotros pecadores.
This is 75th anniversary that the Legion of Mary is in New York State, and the cathedral has allowed us to have a 2 o'clock Mass just special for the Legion of Mary to celebrate this. We have a special devotion to the Blessed Mother, and every day we say the Rosary. At every of our meetings we start with the Rosary, and it's definitely any devotion we have for the Blessed Mother. We're wearing red today to show us apart because the Holy Spirit guides us. And the color for the Blessed Mother, for the Legion of Mary, and for the Holy Spirit is red.
This is the first time we've had a celebration like this here at St. Patrick's Cathedral. I know the Holy Spirit is here. It's all around us, and it's just going to come down and bless all of us. Everyone here, everybody.
The Legion of Mary is an army that does not shed the blood of the army to be conquered, but at the contrary, they are ready to shed their blood in service to others. It was the year 1935 when Father Anthony Rodloff announced the first meeting of the Legion of Mary in New York. He said, anyone willing to shed the blood of Christ be in rectory this Thursday.
The invitation is just anybody who is ready to shed their blood come to the rectory on Thursday. So there are no more explanations. You have to do, you know your duty. You come to follow Jesus. It's going to be that you have to give your blood, your life in service of the others. We see the Korean contribution, the Haitian contribution, the Filipinos. It's like sometimes like charismatic renewal. You know, you don't see much of them, but they are very powerful. Every week they are there knocking the doors and making their work, and they are very faithful. They are very faithful.
We go to nursing homes, hospitals. We donate a lot of things to the troops overseas. We make rosary beads. It's the Blessed Virgin that we want to pass on her good word all over the world.
Well, that is it for tonight. Coming up tomorrow, I will talk with a leading Catholic philanthropist about his life and his work. The founder of Domino's Pizza and Ave Maria University, Thomas Monahan, stops by for a visit. We have that and much more tomorrow. Meantime, remember, we are always online at currentsny.net, and you can also find us on Facebook and on Twitter. Until next time, I'm Francesca Maxime. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great night.